Hello, everyone. This is Matt from That Matt 85 and my friend Pat.
How's it going, everybody?
And this is our first episode of Bearded Reviews. Pat, I don't remember if you have a beard anymore. I've kind of shaved mine off, but at the time that we made this, we were all into the beards.
Oh yeah, probably have a bigger beard than I've ever had in my entire life. It's going on a little over a year of growth. So yeah, it's going pretty good.
Okay, well, at least you're
Uh,
representing for our Bearded Reviews here.
yeah,
Okay, so Bearded Reviews is a movie review website that we made way back in the day, way before podcasting was really a thing. We just wanted to put our thoughts down for reviews and have it for people to look at, and now we decided to bring it back, podcast format, put them up on YouTube for you guys to listen to.
uh, yep.
Just to give you a bit of an idea of who we are, you might have seen some of my other streamcasts that I've been doing, but I'm Matt. I not any sort of movie critic or anything, but I feel like I have a good eye for what's enjoyable in movies. Granted, we all have our own biases, but you'll see me watching a lot more family-friendly movies, and then just anything that catches my eye. I like going through the Oscar-nominated films. I've been finding that they're a lot more entertaining in recent years. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Pat.
I'm Pat. I've loved movies since I was a little kid. I wanted to be involved in somehow way or another. But I don't really have the money or talent to do that. So I like to talk about them, and I like to go see movies with my friends and talk about them, and I like to post things about it, and I love talking to movies. It's one of my favorite things in the world. So this is gonna be a lot of fun for me, I think.
Yeah, what to expect from the
I hope you
show?
guys enjoy it too.
What to expect
What?
from the show is we're going to be having a lot of individual movie reviews, hopefully newer movies, but with how COVID has taken over, there
Yeah.
aren't too many newer movies. So in the meantime, we got a few other things planned.
The corona has ruined so many things, but to me, not being able to go to a movie theater, it's probably the worst thing that's going on right now. But I'm living, I guess.
Yeah,
It's hard for me. I'm guessing it's hard for everybody else too.
that's for sure. That's for sure. Um, but not only we're going to do movie reviews, and we'll try and do some older movie reviews, but we also have other fun things to do, such as on today's show, we are running down a top 10 list of our favorite 2019 films, of the ones that we've seen. And then we each have an individual review of a newer movie, since there are a couple of them that came out before the virus took over, and a few that are still being released as streams.
Yes.
So we're gonna dive headlong into. Sorry, I'm changing the graphic on my recording software here. That's the wrong one.
That's okay. I'm gonna go
We're
ahead and throw this in there, guys. I am very, very new to this. This is my first time recording pretty much anything, so just bear with me. I hopefully will get better at this. If I don't, well, you can always not listen. But
that's the
I'm gonna
thing.
try my best for you guys.
That's one of the things about our podcast. There's so many people out there that have. I mean, there's so many professional movie critics out there. We're definitely not professional, at least not yet. But
God no.
yeah, exactly. So why are people going to listen to our movie reviews? It's because I feel like we're more natural people. We're not going to be throwing out the critiques because we think that's what you want to hear. We're not going to be throwing out the critiques because that gives us prestige in the community. We're telling you as people that go and watch movies for fun, not professionally, this is what we like and why we like it. And hopefully that connects better with our audience than somebody writing for our newspaper.
Exactly. And my goal is hopefully we can get it to where people feel like we're just talking and they're kind of involved in the conversation. That's the kind of podcast I like, where I feel like I'm kind of in the mix, and I like that. That's hopefully what we can achieve, but we'll see what goes on.
Yeah, me too. That's exactly how I feel, and that's why I want us to be more natural. I want I mean, we have to have this planned a little bit, but I want it to be more natural. Like, if, for example, you don't know my top 10 list, I don't know your top 10 list, so our reactions to it will be kind of natural.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, we're going to dive into our top 10 now. I have a really crappy looking graphic for our top 10. I know you can't see it, but just trust me, it's there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start here. I'm going to give you my top 10. It's based on what entertained me and of the movies I've seen. I can't tell you about the movies I haven't seen. And I imagine it's going to be quite different from Pat's list, but that's okay.
We shall see.
Yes. Number 10 for me was Uncut Gems. This, man, I'd have to tell you to start with this movie. I saw a trailer for it, and my first thought was Adam Sandler. And as the trailer went on, I'm like, man, this looks like a good movie, and it just intrigued me so much. I ended up watching it. It was a thrill ride, to say the least. It had me sweating, and not necessarily that I wanted any certain person to come through. It's just there's so much stress in the movie, and that makes for a good thing and a bad thing. I mean, I feel like if I'm into the movie, I'm feeling what the movie wants me to feel. Just because I feel sad or angry or stressed out isn't necessarily a bad thing, because if I don't care, that's a bad thing, and I cared about this movie. It was a thrill ride. I think Adam Sandler did a great job in a different type of role than he usually has, and it lived up to what I thought it would be.
Yeah, you may or may not see that on my list. Good flick.
So number 9 for me was Jojo Rabbit. I enjoyed the movie a lot more than I thought it would. Probably a little less than other people might have. It was goofy, yet it was serious at the same time. It was a fine line to walk to try and get it to turn out to be, a good movie taken seriously, with how kind of weird it was at times. I think a lot of times, like in the end, I think it turned out very well. There were scenes to me that were a little weird, and there were scenes that to me that came out really well. So yeah, surprisingly, it was a very good watch for me. I would recommend to other people, and that's number 9 on my list.
Well, Matt's theory about us having different lists might not pan out the way he thought, but we'll see. All right, what's number 8, buddy?
Number 8 for me was Battle Angel Alita. Of course, I'm a anime nerd, so it's got to be on my list somewhere. That also is a movie that I liked more than I thought I would. A lot of anime adaptations aren't going too well, but this had who was directing this?
Oh, that's Robert Rodriguez.
Rodriguez. Okay, yes.
That was kind of a return to form for him.
Yes, and it had a big budget. For how much CG was in the movie, it was very realistic looking. I mean, granted, that robot stuff isn't real, but the environment's destroying the. I mean, there's no big city that it was set in. It was just all computer generated. I enjoyed the individual scenes in the movie. I enjoyed the overall story. There were parts of the movie that were maybe a little too slow for me. Parts of the movie where I thought the plot wasn't getting across quite well, but it had a lot of good actors. I think it just came together well.
That was one that you dragged me to, and I didn't know anything about it. I actually really enjoyed that one. It's not on my list, but it was good. I saw a lot of more movies last year than I have in the last few years. So my list was a little harder to conduct than it was the last few. But I will say one thing about that one. I hear they're having trouble getting money for the sequel. After that ending, I won't spoil it. They better make a sequel, because I am going to be pissed if they don't. That really pissed me off.
Yeah, I mean, it cost a lot of money. I would imagine they'd ask for even more money to make it, and I think
it was a somewhat hit, but it wasn't like enough of a hit. They're like, oh, we're gonna bankroll this to the next one.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So hopefully in the future it becomes maybe more cheaper to make the same type of movie, so they'll greenlight it. But we'll have to see. So I'm on number 7. Yes, number 7 for me was Knives Out. Uh, I was excited for this movie, and I liked it. It was a little more quirky than I thought it would be. It was hard to describe. It the movie was it changed paces, changed genres, changed a lot on me as I was watching it, and that's what made it a good mystery type of movie. Uh, Again, the cast was great. A lot of people playing different types of roles than what they usually play, and just it didn't. It's kind of funny. It didn't keep me guessing. It made me think I knew what the answer was, and I didn't know what the answer was. So then I was surprised. But Knives Out, number 7 for me. Or that was number 6.
Mm. No, that was number
No, that's
7.
number 7. Yes, it was. I'm sorry. I should have numbered my list.
No, you're good. No, you're good. Good flick. We may hear more about it later.
Number 6 for me, Detective Pikachu. Kind of funny it's on the list, but honestly, it was pretty well done for what it was. It's a little more lighthearted, not as serious as a film, but again, with Pokemon, would have been really easy to mess up, and it was another good adaptation, not necessarily of anime, but of a video game, so it's kind of the same genre. And Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu was such a weird, interesting choice, but worked out so well too. He kind of was a Deadpool of the Pokemon. I guess the Pokemon scene.
Yeah. See, I have seen that. I don't know if I finished it. I watched it on a date that did not go well. So, but I remember thinking that Ryan Reynolds was really funny and cute as Pikachu. I don't know the kid's name, but the other main actor in it, the guy.
I know who you're talking about, but I don't know his name either.
I was on a bad date, and I may have been a little intoxicated, but yeah, it was. I remember thinking Reynolds was a pretty good Pikachu.
Number 5 for me is 1917. That was a movie. As soon as I saw the first trailer, it just looked epic to me, and I wanted to see it. I did, and it was surprising in a lot of ways. Not surprising with how good it was. I expected it to be good, but it was made to look like it was shot in one take. That's surprising, but it was you don't see a whole lot of World War One, and it was a really interesting take on World War One with just a lot of thrills and stress throughout this movie too. A lot like Uncut Gems. It's one of those movies that it didn't seem like it was paced too fast, but it from start to finish, it felt like I was there for maybe half an hour, and it was like 3-hour movie.
Yeah. See, that's one I have not seen yet. That will actually be eligible for my 2020 list because it was released the first week of 2020, and that's how I do it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one I definitely want to see. I'm a big fan of Sam Mendes. He directed it. He's made some good flicks. He's kind of been in limbo. He really hasn't capitalized on that huge success. Like when you he won Best Director with his first feature back in American Beauty. So once you do that, you're kind of stuck in limbo for a while. But it was nice to see him kind of make his comeback here. I still need to see it, but it was nice just to see him get back into the awards conversations and get his career back out there because he'd kind of been gone for a while.
Yes. Sorry. With if we get more of that, I'm not going to complain, of course, at all.
Yeah.
Number 4 for me was Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. This came out a little bit after the Won't You Be My Neighbor documentary, which I liked a lot more.
I love that documentary.
Yes, Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, also a very good film. I feel like it was a little not what I expected because I expected, again, to be kind of like a docu-movie. It wasn't as much. It was just a movie that involved Mr. Rogers. Tried to portray him as realistically as possible, but I don't think it was actual events either. But it was an interesting sweet tale, not just about Mr. Rogers but the kind of impact that he had on other people's lives, not just, again, as they were kids, but as they're older, showing I guess the main character was having life problems, and was able to try and get back on track in the way that you really need to, which is by self-realizing what the problem is and then doing what it takes to fix it. So it was a movie that I was into the whole way through, a movie that I enjoyed watching. It's one of the few feel-good movies that I have on my list, I guess.
See, that's one that I skipped it. I love Mr. Rogers. I love the documentary, it's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. I loved the show. I loved him, and I'm a little nervous watching it because I love Tom Hanks. I saw those trailers. He just does. It doesn't work for me. Like from a standpoint of, I just look at him like that's not Mr. Rogers. It just doesn't feel right to me. I'm sure he's great in the movie. He got an Oscar nod for it, but that's kind of why I've been skeptical to see that one. But I am curious to see it.
I know
But
exactly
like I
what you
said,
mean.
someone who loved Mr. Rogers was my idol as a kid, so it's kind of hard for me to see anybody else playing Mr. Rogers.
I do know what you mean. There was a bit of a buy-in, and I think I got over that buy-in by
Mhm.
watching the trailers and seeing when he was cast for the film and seeing him in the makeup. And it was, especially at first, kind of
That'll help.
shocking, just
That'll
like,
help.
what the heck? But if you get into the movie, you start suspending disbelief and getting into it. It's still one of those things because he's supposed to be Mr. Rogers, but he's Tom Hanks, so it's not like it's an unknown actor playing the person. What you're seeing is Tom
Exactly.
Hanks dressed up like Mr. Rogers, but
And not only that, it's an icon playing an icon,
yeah,
which is
exactly.
always probably to a viewer weird. Like when Will Smith played Ali, like
Yes.
when I actually saw it, oh my God, he's so good. But when you're looking into it, you're like Fresh Prince is Muhammad Ali. Really?
Yes. Yes, I know
It's
exactly.
something you gotta accept and get in with time.
That's got to be one of a topic we should discuss later. Is the type of people that are
Yeah,
hard to get into roles because you see them as themselves instead of as who they're playing.
exactly,
Anyways,
exactly. That's a thing for sure.
number 3 on my list is Ford versus Ferrari. Uh, I watched this. It looked fun in the trailers. I watched it because it was on an Oscar nomination. I had a lot of fun with it. Not just the acting, the people that were in it, but the story, which I loosely knew about, but kind of getting to learn more about it, getting to learn the individual stuff about it. And I know it's all Hollywooded up, but that's makes it more interesting for me. I don't expect it to be a docu-pic. It's just a retelling of the events that happened in a way to make it more entertaining. It, it's it's not a sports film, but there's sports. I mean, it kind of is. So I kind of get into that. Sports is one of my things, so it was easier for me to get into that and to find somebody to root for and to root for them. Uh, but like most of these films, it goes beyond just the race that they're doing. It goes into the I guess the building up of the different people in the film, the racer and Shelby, who's making the cars, and their battle with Ford, in the battle of Ford against Ferrari. Uh, just all these different things coming together to peek into the race. So
Yeah,
it was another one of those films that go by really fast when you're watching it.
yeah. See, I had mixed feelings on that one. I didn't hate it. I didn't dislike it, but that was the one that was nominated for Best Picture that I'd seen that I was just like, really, this is there over this or this or this. There's always that one movie that is kind of my whipping boy, where it's just like, really, like
Uh,
you're gonna nominate fucking sorry, I didn't mean to drop the F bomb there. I know Matt's mom's probably gonna listen to this. But
I doubt it, but
yeah, like the year Dark Knight was nominated. Benjamin Button is the epitome of my whipping boy movie. Really, Benjamin Button is better than the Dark Knight. You're really gonna say that? You're gonna leave that in the history of the Oscars that we enjoyed Benjamin Button over the Dark Knight? It was that movie that year. I thought Bale was fantastic as he always is. I thought Damon was good, but for the most part, I thought it was a good movie that people must have liked more than I did.
Yeah, I was surprised it was in the tops too. Uh, like I could tell it was meant to try and be there, but it was also the type of movie it is isn't the type that normally gets nominations. But and this is again another topic for a different show. The way that movies are chosen for these award shows. We should definitely go over that later because I'm sure we both got rants for that.
Oh, yeah. If we do a snub episode, you better tell your mom not to listen because that's gonna get ugly. Uh,
So number two on my list. We're coming down to the top two, so I'm kind of wondering if you're narrowing it down in your mind. Number two for me was The Irishman. Uh,
no.
the thing about
Okay.
the thing about The Irishman for me, uh, I don't know how many. This is Scorsese, right?
Yes.
Yes, I don't know how many Scorsese films I've actually watched, to be honest, and maybe that's why I'm rating it so high. But uh, I was expecting it to be a well-made movie, one that I would critique really well, even if I didn't like it that much. But it turned out to
Hmm.
be really entertaining to me. How it was shot, how meticulously the characters were built up. Um, of course, I've seen all the different actors, not necessarily in Scorsese films, but in other films, so I
Hmm.
know who they are and what they do. But they did such a good job and a good look at the period that it was set in, and the good look at the mafia that it was set about. And with how long it was, I really didn't mind. I didn't feel like it was too short. I didn't feel like it was too long. It built up well. Um, if I had to say one thing negative about it, it was more of a. I feel like they didn't really need to have the beginning and the end where De Niro is kind of contemplating his life and how he got there, because I get that point of the film, and I feel like they could have. I guess maybe they could have done it better. I felt like De Niro was reminiscing about his past life, but I didn't really get that he felt bad about it. And if he didn't feel bad about it, then why are we reminiscing about it? But the whole
See,
story in between of just his whole life was so interesting to me.
yeah, you caught me off guard with that one because the last time I talked to you around Oscar time about movies, that was your number one. So I'm curious to see what topped it.
Yes,
What's your number one?
The Irishman was definitely number one for me in the Oscars. And for the Oscars, I consider it my critique. I do think The Irishman was the number one film from last year. But
The Oscar movie, the award movie. Gotcha, gotcha.
yes, but I did enjoy one movie a bit more, and I know you're not going to be a big fan of it, but number one for me was The Joker, or just Joker, sorry. uh, yes, tell me your disappointment later, but as far as Joker
But
goes, I wasn't sure what to think of it going into it. As we got closer and closer, I was a little more hyped for it. Uh, I have a feeling that not that I took it to heart more, but I feel like you might have felt that it was a little more superficial. Uh, I had felt like they did a good job of showing what's going on in the Joker's head and his emotions, and I'm not even sure because of the ending of the movie whether it was even real. And maybe that takes away from the rest of the movie, but kind of the build up of this one person to the point to where he's going crazy and kind of taking his personality and turning it on its head to be the kind of alternate character that he ends up being. I just, as much as I thought it was a well-made movie, I enjoyed it even more, and that's why I feel like I have a lot more movies to watch because I looked through the top movies of last year, and I know I've seen more movies last year, but of the movies that came out last year, I might have only seen about 19, 20 movies. So Joker was on the top of that list for me.
okay, yeah. You better hope John doesn't listen to this. Cause our friend John doesn't listen to this because he's gonna give you a bunch of crap for that one.
I know,
Um,
I know. I've not argued with him about it, but I think he might know I like it a lot more than he does.
See, that was one that I had mixed emotions on that one. The best way I could describe it is I thought the last 20 minutes was really great, and I enjoyed it a lot, and I thought that was the perfect ending in the perfect way to sell the story, and that everything else was hit or miss for me. I don't know what it is about Todd Phillips directing drama, but this is the second in a row where he kind of goes into the drama format, and the movies are okay, but there's something off. Like it just like it was War Dogs, which was his last one before this. It's just off and on. Like it just seems so jumpy, and you just can't get into it. And that's the same way I felt about the Joker. Joaquin Phoenix is great. Of the people nominated, he probably you could argue DiCaprio, or actually, honestly, I'd say of the people nominated, I kind of forgot about him. Adam Driver probably should have won, in my opinion, but Phoenix was great. But it was just, I don't know. I guess the way I told John, the score is great, the ending's great, Phoenix is great, everything else. That was basically my 2 cents on it. Not a bad movie, but I don't get why everybody talks about it like it's the best thing ever made.
Yeah, I do.
That's my 2 cents.
I do feel and I know what you mean. I do feel like even if it's my favorite movie that I've watched from 2019, I see so many people that are way promoting it so much more than I would. But some people get I feel a little less emotionally attached to a lot of things like movies. Whereas I see other people that live and breathe, especially when it comes to comic book movies, and I feel like that plays into it. Not that I'm not biased, but I'm just not as excitable, I think, as some others. Anyways, though, that's my top 10, and now we're getting to your top 10, Pat. So let's hear it.
Okay, we're gonna start with a movie that is on Hulu right now. So if you want to go watch it, it's real easy. This one is called Booksmart. It was the directorial debut of Olivia Wilde. She's a pretty famous actress, and it's kind of been dubbed as the female Superbad. I don't really like that. There's definitely similarities, but I felt this film had its own story and its own feel despite that. Beanie Feldstein, and I can't remember the other girl's name, but she plays Eve on Last Man Standing. Most people know her as that. I thought they were both phenomenal, both breakout roles, and I just love the story. I love the relationship between the two. It's a great movie. And one other thing I want to point out, it's one of the best characters in a film of LGBT from the LGBT community. It's I loved how they did not it didn't make a big deal about one of the characters being a lesbian, and they just seemed it was normal. It was one of the more natural things I've seen from him recently. I really liked that movie. It was a good, fun movie.
I haven't seen that movie, so I don't have a whole lot to add to it. But I do like when you're saying that they can have a movie where lesbians are portrayed and it's not the centerpiece of the movie. It's just considered natural, and I feel like that's the kind of world we should get to too.
It was brought up, but that was it, and it's just treated like another. Like it's I really like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. Number 9 is My Name is Dolomite is My Name. The kind of the return for Eddie Murphy to the big screen. He was also he did that big SNL promoting it. Just a fun look at the exploitation movies of the 70s and the black exploitation movies. I've seen a few like Badass Song, and I've seen I have not seen the original movie that this is based on, but it's a fun look at 70s films and racism and how hard it was to be a minority at that time and to want to be famous. It's really what the core of it is. It tells the story of all these guys who were just trying to get into the business. That they had a black ball on their name from the second they got in, just because they weren't white. And it's a very funny yet good story about a man who everybody told, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, and he did it. And those I always enjoy those type of movies, especially when they're true.
That is a movie that I meant to watch, and I still plan on watching, but it's one I haven't gotten to. I think around the time that I was going to watch it was the Oscars, and I ended up having to try and finish all the Oscar Best Picture nominees before the show happened.
Yeah. And also, for everyone out there, that one is on Netflix. So, again, another easy one to just pop up and you can watch right away. Number 8, Knives Out. So another one of Matt covered. I liked that this is kind of Rian Johnson's first foray into real comedy. Before this, he had, well, I guess you count the Brothers. I forgot about the Brothers Bloom. But the Brothers Bloom is kind of easy to forget. It bombed so hard. It was fun. But anyway, this is he had a hard time with Return of Last Jedi. So it was nice to see him having fun. This is by far the funniest movie he's made. I don't know. It's not his best work. I would say that probably goes to Looper. But very good crime comedy. Such a good cast. And I don't know what it is. Lakeith Stanfield, every single movie he is in, he is just gold, just like he was here. I would say Daniel Craig's probably the big one here. Daniel Craig might be his best work to date, but great cast, good story. To me, it kind of falls off at the end, but I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, well, yeah, you saw my quick review, but I agree.
Yeah, that one's a good movie, but there's not a whole lot to talk about because it is what it is. It's just a crime movie. It's a whodunit. You kind of know what you're going into when you get into it, but it's good. It might not be anything spectacular, but it's good. It's a good story and it's a fun watch. Okay, and I forgot. I'm still going here, so I'm waiting for you to talk. It's my turn. Number 7. Hold on one second. Hold on, let me think here. I'm trying to remember what my number 7 was. Okay, yeah, we go. Forgot for a minute. My mainstream one, Avengers Endgame. Everybody talks about the joke. I cannot believe that people think that's not only that people think that's the best comic book movie like ever, but that was the best comic book movie this year when Avengers Endgame came out. I think because Avengers Endgame broke all the box office records, and it's a combination of that and the comic book aspect of it, people just threw it off. Oh, well, we've got all this money. It doesn't need awards. Blah, 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 blah. Bullshit. Special effects are the best that Marvel has done to date, in my opinion. Great cinematography. Of course, the whole cast is excellent as usual. I thought it's the perfect ending to the Avengers series. May not be my favorite Marvel movie, but damn, is it good. And Fat Thor needs his own movie. I think we can all agree on that.
Actually, yes. I'd say with Endgame, I wasn't as impressed as I know a lot of people are, and I wouldn't say it's anything specific like that. It was maybe even of the Avengers movies, my third favorite Avengers movie. It was really really good is that it was the ending to such a big story arc. But separating it for me down to its own film, I enjoyed the first one more. The first of the two-parter. I mean, the first Avengers I thought was great. I like that even more than all that.
Okay, yeah. See, that's another one that got overshadowed too, because Black Panther came out the same year. Both great movies. I honestly think they're about even, but if they had come out in different years, I think they both would have gotten Oscar nominations.
I think so too. That's just my 2 cents, though. I completely understand. It's a great movie. It's fun watch. It's especially the culmination again of all of the Marvel properties up to that point makes it such a big boom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. All right. I guess I'll move on to number 6 here. Another one that is on streaming platforms. This one just came to Netflix. Uncut Gems. Matt's number 10. Yeah.
Yep.
I have not seen the Safdie Brothers' first movie, or I don't know if it's the first movie. The movie that they made big on Good Time. I've heard great things about it, but this is my first introduction to them, and I gotta say, they're very talented filmmakers. This is a great screenplay. It was directed very differently, a very unique look, a very different take from the beginning. You kind of know, okay, this is different. This is you don't know really what to expect. It's just a fun ride, and if we're gonna talk about Uncut Gems, Adam Sandler is better than he's ever been in his entire career in this movie. As far as I'm concerned, that was the performance of the year. Every single Oscar voter who did not vote for him just because he was Billy Madison deserves to be kicked off the Academy for that. I'm not the only one that feels that way. That was his one shot. That was his chance to get what he's earned over his career. They were never going to give him the Oscar. Everybody knows that. Even if he deserved it, Adam Sandler is never going to get an Oscar. It's just the way it is because the Academy is full of politics, and he will never get there. But he deserved to be in that nomination last year. This will probably be his only shot, and they blew it.
I will say I do think they blew it too, and I was surprised that he wasn't there.
I knew it was coming, and I was still livid. Like, I knew there was no way they were going to throw him in there. It was a stacked field, that on top of it. But even with it being a stacked field, you don't cut out the best person. It was purely political. Everybody knows it, and it's just not fair. So I'm glad he got his indie spirit. He earned it, but yeah, it's a sad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, since you already talked about that one, I'll move on to number 5.
Yeah.
Jojo Rabbit, another one he brought up. Taika Waititi is probably the greatest mind of comedy right now. It's a great performance from him too. I thought his performance of the guy who plays Jojo, I forget his name. He's the anchor of the film. But to me, Taika Waititi is Hitler. Oh man, I honestly felt like he should have got a supporting actor nomination for that. I loved the story to it. I love how silly and ridiculous it is while it still has a good message. This is the kind of movie, though, I think it is I would recommend to children because it is the message overall is do not let hate control you, and how to step aside and stand up to things that you are not comfortable with. That, like, the whole movie, this kid is dealing with this thing, and the way he handles it, I think it was flawless. A great story and a good message, which you do not get a lot in comedies these days.
Yes, I think you made a good point with Taiko. He's got such a, not even just with comedy, but with movies in general, he's got such a unique perspective, and he's different. And honestly, with movies nowadays, what I'm looking for is to not see the same thing over and over and over, even if it is good and even if I can critique it well. Seeing something that's good and different is such a plus for me, and I feel like everything he's putting out, for whatever the reason might be, he's got the confidence to do his thing. Other people have confidence in him to do his thing, and he's putting out gold.
Yeah. Oh yeah. See, I could think I could speak for most people. We've given up on Thor. I'd given up on Thor. Thor 2, I like Thor 1. Thor 2 was an unapologetic piece of crap as far as I'm concerned. I thought it was terrible. I was bored out of my mind. So for him to take that franchise, which to me was dead, and to resurrect it and make the best film in that series and one of the better Marvel movies, yeah, the guy's got some talent.
I would say, on that note, again, another topic for a different day, but Marvel had gone in the direction of the sequels weren't going to be nearly as good as the originals, but Thor 3, again, like you said, I barely watched Thor 2, and I really didn't enjoy it. Thor 3 was better than...
That was by far the worst Marvel movie I've seen in theaters,
yes.
by far.
And then Thor 3 comes out, and it was...
I agree with you on the sequels, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of, I think Captain America was the exception, though, because I thought the 2 and 3 on Captain America were way better than the first one. I thought the first one, it wasn't bad, but I thought Thor 1 was better, and all of the Marvel movies going into that were better than that. Just my opinion.
We're gonna get sidetracked if I go off on that along with you, so we'll save that for later.
Yeah, that's fine. We're on to number 4. Number 4. Give me 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
All right, number 4, Marriage Story. Now, another one that's on. Hold on one. Okay, sorry about that. Marriage Story is another one that's on Netflix. This one is a hard watch. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's kind of like a punch to the gut. Some of the most heartbreaking scenes you will see in a love story. It really is a love story about divorce, and it's about how like divorce is the basically the worst possible thing that can happen to both parties involved. It's just how it's a war and nobody really wins, but at the end of the day, you have to get up and you have to go on living, and you have to accept that at the end of the day, you love this person. You're probably, if you have children, you're probably going to have to spend the rest of your life dealing with this person. So you have to learn to love them while you hate them. And I thought it was brilliantly done. This one is God damn it, flanking on his name, Noah Baumbach, a fantastic filmmaker. If you guys don't know him, check out Greenberg, check out The Squid and the Whale, check out Margot at the Wedding. Fantastic dry comedies. He is a king at that. And this is a little different for him. It's a comedy, but it's so much darker than anything he's ever done. And he really stepped up there. Driver, Johansson, and Dern, all flawless in this. Dern earned her Oscar. Johansson should have won in this for actress, in my opinion. Adam Driver, best performance of his career. This kid is new De Niro, I'm telling you. He's going to be around until his 70s, and he's going to keep out churning out work. He's that good. Just a great watch. Like I said, it's a little hard at points. There's definitely parts that are going to get you upset. But, man, it's a good watch.
I think every year there's one movie in the Oscar nominations that I don't get to for whatever reason. This year that was that movie. And I still plan on watching it because it looked entertaining. It, like you said, looked like a gut punch, and I don't know if I'm always ready for that. But Adam Driver, I like seeing him, and the movie looked entertaining, and it got good reviews from people that I know. So it's a movie I want to get to for sure.
Yeah. Okay, we're on to the next one. Like I said, a lot of these are on streaming sites. It's working out good, so it's a good recommendation for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
This one is Parasite. This is the movie everybody has been talking about. It won Best Picture. It won pretty much every award you can think of as far as pictures go, past the Golden Globes. It's one of the best movies I've seen in a long time about class. The great thing I liked about this movie is I could relate to the story, even though the people involved are nothing like me. They speak a different language. They live different lifestyles. They live in a completely different country. They live in a completely different culture. Yet, because of class, because of where they are, I can kind of feel it because, I'm not the rich. I'm poor too. Like it's something that I think everybody can relate to, that once you get that little bit of power or money in this world, you do not want to let it go. You will do anything and everything to hold on to it, especially if you come from nothing. And that's really what this is about. And it's about how people react in situations like that. And when it comes down to it, what kind of person are you? What will you do to get what you want? And I'm not a big foreign film guy, but this one blew me away. And I was shocked that this wasn't on your list, to be honest with you, because I know you've seen it.
Mm-hmm. I think for me with that movie, not that it's a big critique on it. I've seen a lot of foreign films, especially Asian films. I haven't seen a lot of foreign films that weren't Asian films, so I've seen a lot of Asian films. And this isn't a super unique take. It's very similar. Not just that it's always the subject, but it's very similar in how it was shot, how it was acted, how the humor was in it, the setting, and all that. So that part of it was something that I kind of expected. The movie was endearing. It was very interesting, and I like it for what it was. I like that it won for a lot of reasons, but it didn't impress me as much as I think a lot of people, because I've seen a lot of movies and it's similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And see, I need to see. I've only seen one other movie of his. It was the American release, Snowpiercer, and I liked it. I didn't like it as much as other people I've talked to, and my cousin John, who was a friend of ours. But he's a very good filmmaker, and I was very, very impressed with this. All right, we'll go on to number 2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody who knows me is going to be surprised on my 1 and 2. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood gets the second spot. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm a Tarantino guy, idolized the guy. This was different for him. I like that he finally made not only his Hollywood love letter to Hollywood, but he also made his buddy movie. Anybody who knows Tarantino knows he loves those kind of movies. He's a comedy guy who directs drama, and this was like a straight up comedy to me. I love the Hollywood aspects. I think Pitt is better than he's ever been in this. I think DiCaprio is underrated. He got his nomination, but people kind of sleep on him because of Pitt. Margot Robbie is just a joy on the screen, and it's controversial. But that little scene with Bruce Lee, I loved. I don't get why people freaked out. It was obviously Clinton messing around. It wasn't him sending a fu to Bruce Lee or his family or anything like that. It was Quentin Tarantino having fun with his Hollywood heroes. That's what I took it as. But the thing I really like about that one is it's different than anything he's ever made. It's not violence every scene. It's not fu every scene. It showed a different range for him, which a lot of people write him off as generic. He can only do violence. He can only do bad language. Blah 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 blah. There's like maybe 20 f words in this movie compared to like the 200 in Pulp Fiction. Like, it's a very mature work from a guy that nobody thought could do mature work. And I think he gets a bad rap, but this is why I love Tarantino. It's movie making at its finest, and you always feel like you're in on the joke. Whereas a lot of people, you don't know that, like, you always feel like he's bringing you along with it. You never feel like you're left behind with Tarantino.
Of course, I have
no different.
Of course, I have a ton of respect for Tarantino, and I like this movie a lot. In fact, I think it would have been like number 11 on my list. I was kind of cutting down my top movies that I had listed, and I think that was the last one that got cut from my list. In fact, even if it was just critiques or best movies, that would probably be in my top 10 list. I just didn't enjoy it entertainingly as much as I expected to, and I think that's part of it too. If it wasn't above, and I had high expectations, but if it doesn't meet my expectations, then it gets kind of a lower biased look at it from me. So I definitely don't disagree with you. Just my personal preference.
On to number 1, again, a Netflixer, The Irishman. Scorsese is another, Scorsese and Tarantino are my guys, so you can claim bias on this. You're probably right. I will say they should not have done the CGI. That's the only complaint I have. And even with that, I still think it's the best movie of the year. But yeah, like, cast somebody younger to play young De Niro, because that was a disaster. But I disagree with you on the beginning and end. I think it was a good introspective to the character. The character does not really show his emotions at all. And I thought that those scenes in the elderly folks' home and the scene with the casket kind of showed a broken man with nobody to take care of him and nobody around. And just, I thought that set the story up so well. I thought it was a good setup. The chemistry between Pacino and De Niro is better than it's ever been, as far as I'm concerned. I love the father-son dynamic between them, even though they're like the same age and they're like brothers in real life. But they made it work. This was the best work I've seen from Al Pacino probably in about 20 years. I'm a fan of his overall. Like, his 70s and 80s work is flawless. Everything after Son of a Woman to me is just Pacino playing Pacino. So it was nice to see Pacino in a role like Jimmy Hoffa, and he made it his own, and he really personified Hoffa while looking absolutely nothing like him at all. But I loved, and people give Scorsese crap for no women in this movie, and they've kind of got a point. But I will say, I thought that the whole thing of saying Anna Paquin was misused is ridiculous, because though she had very little screen time, the screen time she has is very important to the film. Her character is very important to the film, even though you don't hear or see much from her. Yeah, she only had 7 words in the whole movie and like one line, but that one line is probably the biggest line in the movie. Like, she's so important to the movie, it doesn't matter that she's barely in it. To me, and like I said, Scorsese and women, that's not something he's known for. He's definitely a guy movie. He makes guy movies. He directs men well. He does not direct a lot of women, but when you've got the cast that he's got and you've got the skills that he got, you can pretty much do whatever you want.
Well,
And he does.
I definitely don't disagree with you. Yes, as well, like I said, I had a number 2 for me, and I still think it was the best movie of the year. So,
Yeah.
like I said, definitely don't disagree with you there. So that's our top 10s, at least of what we've seen so far. Possibly we could do a retrospective of it later, but I feel like who knows what's going to happen with the pandemic that's going on. So
Exactly.
yeah,
That's why we're doing this now.
Yes, that's why we're doing it now.
In the perfect world, we'd be viewing all the summer movies that came out in the last month, because that's what we should be doing. But COVID-19 has kind of put a kibosh on that.
Yes, but we have seen some of the newer movies of this year, and now's the time for us to give our reviews for them. So I'm changing our graphic here, and the movie that I saw was Scoob, and the story about how we saw that was my brother and sister were visiting me. We'd watched Scooby-Doo as kids. It was a newer movie that just came out that weekend that they were here. We thought it'd be kind of fun to watch it. Not that we thought, this is not exactly an anticipated movie or anything, but it's something that would be fun to watch. If they weren't here, I probably wouldn't have even seen it, but I did, so here's the review for it. So, Scoob has in its cast, which I mentioned because it's animated, so you don't necessarily know who the cast is if you haven't looked. Will Forte, Mark Wahlberg, Zac Efron, Ken Jeong, Tracy Morgan, Frank Welker, and Simon Cowell all doing voices. Granted, Simon Cowell did the voice of himself in the movie. And a quick summary of the plot. The movie starts with a quick origin story, then goes to the future. Scooby and Shaggy help the Blue Falcon stop Dick Dastardly from opening a portal to another dimension. It's just a really quick synopsis of the plot. So, this story does a retelling of the origins, basically, of how Scooby met Shaggy, how Scooby and Shaggy met everybody else in the gang as kids. I feel like that's never been very important, and in fact, it really isn't important to the rest of the movie. They just kind of threw it in, but it was nice because it was heartwarming. It wasn't too distracting or taken away. Didn't matter that much. Another interesting point is I don't know if in more recent times Velma has become Hispanic, but she was in this movie, and that's definitely okay. I really don't mind. But she's also
Hispanic Velma. Sorry. I'll
she's
say that for later. Go ahead.
she's also super smart and proactive in this movie, which I feel like throws off the group dynamic, though. Not that I really need her to be a weak character. It's just her part in the gang used to be kind of losing her glasses and pointing out stuff, not necessarily solving every mystery by herself, and then being upset every time somebody does something, I guess, slightly slightly mean to them. But that's kind of how she's turned into for this movie. Surprisingly, the rest of the gang wasn't in the film much. They kind of set it up like it was going to be the whole gang solving a mystery like you normally do in Scooby-Doo, but after the beginning of the movie, it's mostly just Scooby and Shaggy, and everybody else is just kind of lost. In that kind of way, it's not like a normal Scooby-Doo cartoon. the normal Scooby-Doo cartoons, there's a mystery, there's something happening, somebody is manipulating everybody from behind the scenes and trying to make it look paranormal, and they find out who did it. In this case, it was the Hanna-Barbera, which goes to my next point. There's a lot of callbacks to old Hanna-Barbera cartoons, such as Captain Caveman, Grape Ape, Blue Falcon, Dino Mutt, and Dick Dastardly. So Dick Dastardly is the main villain in this, and he used to have his own cartoon with Dino Mutt. I guess the story goes that he discovered as an evil scientist kind of person. He discovered another dimension where there's just tons of gold, and he tried to go through there, but it was a one-way portal. So his dog Muttley got stuck on the other side of the portal. So he was trying to do what they needed to do, which was collect these artifacts to open up the portal both ways and get Muttley back, plus get all the treasure. He eventually gets what he needs, opens the portal up, but then it releases Cerberus onto the world, and then Scooby-Doo, Shaggy, and Blue Falcon, which is a Hanna-Barbera's kind of Superman-ish type superhero from back in the day, all have to put a stop to that and put a stop to Dick Dastardly. Now, there's not a whole lot of, like they like to do in newer cartoons, have a lot of adult jokes that go over kids' heads. But there was a moment and it was done specifically for this purpose, where Scooby and Dick Dastardly just kept saying Dick back and forth because Dick Dastardly was trying to get him to say his name, so they just kept going Dick, and then he would say Rick instead of Dick. And be like, no, Rick with a D. Dick, 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 Dick. Just kept saying Dick. It was kind of weird and funny, especially because of the kind of movie it was in. So animation technical aspects and everything were fine, but it was nothing special. Just kind of, I guess, the normal. It wasn't super high budget to look like it's realistic, like, say, like Alita or anything. But it wasn't so low budget that it looked like it was out of place. It was just kind of using whatever generic engine that whatever company has for this to create CG movies. The voice cast was really good, though. Not just the cool voices that they had, but just actually doing their jobs as voice actors, which it doesn't always translate as from regular actors into voice acting. But in this case, I think everybody did a good job. Even Tracy Morgan as Captain Caveman in his small little part.
Did his character at any point take off his shirt and rub his belly? If he did, it's not really a Tracy Morgan role if he did. So I'm just saying.
I don't remember if he rubbed his belly, and I wouldn't be surprised if he did, but Captain Caveman also doesn't wear a shirt, so he didn't have to reveal anything for it. I'll have to look that up later. So it was an enjoyable movie. It was fun for what it was. I wasn't too super into it. We kind of talked through the movie and had fun with it. That's the kind of movie it is. Or to go show kids, I'm sure kids are into it too. But that's what it was meant to be, and that's what it was. So I think it hit on its goal. But that's Scoob. So I believe you are reviewing, and I got the graphic up now. Bad Boys for Life. Let's hear it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first off, zoinks on that. That was a good review.
Thank you.
I'm probably gonna see that one eventually. That's one I'm gonna watch Intoxicated. But
wait.
I'm a fan of Scooby-Doo.
I forgot one thing.
Yeah,
we have
go
to
ahead.
give a rating out of beards.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I thought you didn't give it a rating. Yeah.
I forgot. That's my bad. Yes. So this is Bearded Reviews, and we give out of 5 beards. I would say, and also to explain, for me, my rating system. People do different rating systems differently. For me, for my rating system, a movie starts at 3. That's average, and it can go up or down depending on how impressed or angry it made me. So for Scoob, I'd give it a 3. It was about what I expected. It had some nice things. It had some boring things, but it didn't super impress me. I didn't think there was anything too wrong with it, so it's getting the average score of 3 beards out of 5 for me.
Yeah, 3 out of 5. Okay. See, I'm a big fan of the Scooby-Doos, but it's something like Shaggy's like a stoner icon to me. Like he's the original first stoner character. Anybody who thinks he's not a stoner, oh yeah, you're wrong. But yeah, that's one I'm definitely gonna watch by bong. Anyway, uh, uh, my movie is Bad Boys for Life. Bad Boys 3. Um, I enjoyed this film. If you like the other two, you're gonna like this. It's actually a lot better than the second one, which I hated. Um, it's I would say it's a little less on the par of one, but it's in that vein. Um, no Michael Bay this time, which thank the movie gods for that. He was busy with other projects, so I forget who directed this one, but it's not Michael Bay. You can definitely tell because there's not some ugly, skinny plastic model in every other scene. It's a little less scummy on the women talking because that's a Michael Bay thing, and that's one of the things I hate about him. His movies are always sexist. Like no matter what he's doing, it's sexist. It's gonna be it is what it is. But I the key to this one is it's some parts of it are stupid, parts of it are ridiculous. Gonna be honest, it basically falls apart at the end and unravels, and it is what it is. But what keeps this together, just like the first Bad Boys, and it's the only watchable part of the second Bad Boys, is the chemistry between Martin Lawrence and Will Smith, and it might be at its peak here because they're older now, and instead of being the young, it's a different dynamic, and they're both better actors at this point. Martin Lawrence was a comedian who was getting into acting in Bad Boys, and Bad Boys was kind of his breakout. And he's good in it, but you can definitely tell he's more of an actor now than he was back then. And you know, Will Smith's good in everything. Let's be honest. If he's bad in it, somebody messed up because Will Smith is always good. I the main thing I would say, the main critique I would have of this is I don't know her name, but the main villain in this is a woman who plays like a cartel mama kind of thing. She is about as generic a villain as you could possibly write. It's like just the crazy Hispanic woman. I'm gonna ruin this dude's life because he did one bad thing to me 25 years ago, and I'm a vindictive, generic, every racial stereotype of a Hispanic woman there is. That bothered me. Other than that, it's a good flick. It's Martin Lawrence, it's Will Smith shooting shit, playing cops, bad boys, blowing shit up. If you enjoy that kind of stuff, you're gonna enjoy this. I give this the same rating Matt gave Scoob, 3 out of 5 beards. I would recommend it if you like the other movies. If you have not seen the other movies, definitely see one first. Two, just forget about. It would be my advice. But if you want to see both of them, go ahead. But two is a piece of crap in my opinion. It is one of the worst sequels I've ever seen. But yeah, I would highly. It's a good fun action flick, and if you like Martin Lawrence and Will Smith together, you're gonna like it.
Good review. Paints a picture for me since I haven't seen any of the Bad Boys.
Okay.
But yes, that's what we're here for, is to get the reviews. So 3 out of 5, and that's probably the basis for us. If it's more than 3 out of 5, then it's a great movie. If it's less than 3 out of 5, it's
3 out of 5,
stinky movie.
average.
Yeah, and if it's 3 out of 5,
not too bad.
it's
Not
enjoyable.
Too bad, not great.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And while I'm thinking about it, just out of curiosity, who the hell does Mark Wahlberg voice in Scoob? Because that just does not sound right to me.
Let me look that up really quick now that you're asking for it.
Please tell me he's not Fred, because that's terrible casting.
I don't think he's no. Zac Efron is Fred, I believe.
Okay, that's good casting. Zac Efron, if you're gonna cast a lot, that's perfect casting.
That's right. He is the son of Blue Falcon, so he is the new Blue Falcon. But yes, but he's kind of like entitled and lazy.
Yep, Mark Wahlberg to a T. All right.
And then Ken Jeong plays his dog Dynamite, the kind of the Robin to Batman's. Yeah.
Well, also one more thing. While I'm thinking about my It's funny that you said Hispanic Velma. I don't know if you watch South Park, but that would not be the first Hispanic Velma. If you've seen the corn episode of South Park, the Halloween special, Fieldy was an asshole, apparently, to Matt Stone and Trey Parker. So they made him Velma in the Scooby Doo thing, and he was not happy about it. And if you want to see a Hispanic Velma 20 years before Scoob, go check out the South Park episode with Corn in it. It's a hoot and a holler. It's a good time.
That's pretty funny to hear. I wonder if that actually has anything to do with it, because you never know with behind the scenes what's going on.
Yeah, and he did lose his glasses too. So like,
well, I do. I guess I didn't bring this up because it's not a big deal to me, but I guess with Scoob, they're trying to make it more inclusive. So, like, okay, so yeah, Velma was Hispanic. They not just she had a Hispanic voice actress, but they also made her look a bit more Hispanic. They had the Blue Falcon, and I don't know if this was canon to the series earlier, but the Blue Falcon had an assistant who was a black woman who played a prominent role, which was cool. Ken Jeong is Asian. He was playing Dynamite, the robotic dog, and I don't know if that counts, but they were inclusive, and I think that if whether you're trying to do it or not, I think that's cool to give everybody a chance in a movie. So
yeah,
that's, I think, at least part of where Velma becoming Hispanic all of a sudden came from. But I can imagine it being a sticking point for maybe older fans of Scooby-Doo that, it's always been this way and I don't want it to change. And I kind of get that, but I don't think Velma's that critical. I think her personality changing a bit more was a bigger thing. But again, she wasn't in the movie that much either, so it didn't matter that much either. Yeah. Anyways, so
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna wrap up. So if you have more to say, put it in now.
I was just curious. So you would say this is better than the live action ones they've made recently? Because I hated those. I don't even know if I made it through the second one. I think I watched it with Megan years after it came out because I didn't want to see it. I kind of got dragged to it by a girl. She wanted to watch it. I don't think she'd seen the second one, but I absolutely hated the first one. No disrespect to Matthew Lillard, who I think is a great actor. Terrible Shaggy.
You know what's funny about that is I had assumed at some point I would watch those, and I just never have. I mean, it came out, if I remember correctly, probably towards the tail end of when I was in middle school. And I think the rest of my family seen it. I just somehow didn't never see it.
Yeah.
And I should show you a link to this YouTube group called Mr. Sunday Movies where they go over, they call it the Caravan of Garbage. They go over old cinema that generally isn't good and kind of has a retrospective of it. Not that they're really railing against it, but pointing out a lot of stuff and how they thought at the time and what they think now. They do a really good job with those movies, and I think you'd enjoy that. I would be up for watching it. I just don't have any motivation to go out of my way to do it either.
It's just everything about it. I don't know. I didn't, even though Matthew Lillard definitely plays up the stoner aspects of Shaggy, and they actually make references to marijuana in at least one of the movies, not like actually saying marijuana, but I believe at the beginning, the first time that Shaggy shows up, he's in a van, and he goes, "Oh man, it's so toasted," and it's toast. Like I couldn't get the whole casting of that. Sarah Michelle Gellar. Oh God, I hate Daphne anyway. She just made me hate Daphne more. Freddie Prinze Jr. did his best as Fred, but it's just they didn't really do much with him.
Funny is, you know who?
The great Velma. She was good, but they tried to make Velma like the star in the second one. Velma is not the star in any way, shape, or form. She's like cool. Like you give her a little more attention. Velma's cool and all, but nah.
You know who wrote the movies too, don't you?
The live action ones?
Yes, the live action ones.
No, I don't. I don't remember. I might have known at the time. I don't know now.
James Gunn.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. If it's not a good execution, maybe because he didn't direct them. Maybe it'd be better if James Gunn directed him, because James Gunn's a damn good director.
Yeah, he didn't direct the first one at least.
Yeah, I think his first movie was what's the name of that one with Elizabeth Banks and
I'm
guy
not
from
sure, to be honest.
Firefly? I can't think of the name of it. It was a like kind of like a indie hit, like an indie sci-fi hit. I can't think of the name of it, but I'm pretty sure that was his first movie. If not, it was his first big movie. And like right after that, he married Jenna Fisher. They were together for a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, he did. He wrote both. He didn't direct either of them. Uh, but anyways, that we need to wrap up because we've been on long enough. Uh, we are going to try and regularly do these movie reviews, and if you enjoy them, please, please, please give us a like. If you really, really enjoy them, give us a subscription or a sub, and you can watch, be alerted every time we have a new one. If you disagree with our reviews, or if you disagree with our top tens, leave comments. Tell us what yours is. And hopefully, just overall, that you've had fun and you'll continue to have fun listening to us in our silly movie reviews.
Yes, and if you, like you said, if you do disagree with us, go ahead and leave your wrong comments wherever you want, because you are wrong. You are wrong.
If you give us a thumbs down, we're going to give your comments a thumbs down. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, it's a good time. I had a good time. Thanks for listening, everybody. Whoever's listening.
Yes, this is Bat and Matt signing off, and we'll see you next time, hopefully.
Good night.